Okay, folks, we're back again for Chapter 1, Part 2, and the grammar that is in this part of the chapter. Just to remind you, the purpose of the recorded lessons is to go over grammar in English so that you get just one more opportunity to make sure that you understand all the grammar that's important for this lesson and that'll be on the test. For this part of the chapter, the major grammar is an introduction to conjugating verbs. And to conjugate verbs, to start out with, you have to understand what conjugation means and kind of get an overview of how it works in English so that then it can make sense in Spanish. In English, conjugation just means, like, for example, we don't say I is, we say I am. There's a certain form of the verb in English that goes with the subject. I am, we are, you are, he is, they are, right? That's what it is in English. So in Spanish, the first thing we're going to have to know are the subject pronouns. So we'll start out with first person. You've heard that term when you were writing papers and stuff for college and for high school. The teacher probably always said to you, don't use first person, use third person. Well, first person singular is I, and in Spanish, the word for I is yo. First person plural is we, and in Spanish, the word for we is nosotros or nosotras. Now, why do we have to have two forms? You'll remember the grammar lesson from last week. We learned that we have to represent gender in Spanish, and that words that end in an O are masculine and words that end in an A are feminine. So, nosotros would be a group of men. Nosotras would be a group of all women. Now, let me clarify something. What if we had a group of 1 million women and there was one man in it? Then that entire group, because of the presence of that one man, would be nosotros, O-S. So if you've got a group of mixed gender, it's always going to be nosotros because it only takes one man to make the whole group masculine. That's equity, isn't it, ladies? Okay, so first person singular, yo. First person plural, nosotros. Now, let's look at second person. Remember, in Spanish, we also are going to have informal and formal ways to talk to somebody. You learned that when you learned ¿Cómo está usted? Or ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Remember, we talked about was informal. You use it with your friends and people you know. Whereas ¿Cómo está usted? Was formal. You use it when you're just meeting somebody new or you're talking to your social superior. Well, here you're going to get a little bit more explanation about that. Tú is the word for you, informal. And notice it has an accent over the U. That accent is really important. If you don't put the accent over the U, then to without an accent means your, like your book, the possessive. So remember, once again, those accents are important. To is you, informal. Now, what's the plural of that? Vosotros and vosotras is y'all, you plural. I'm from the South, so I'll say y'all. You can say you all, whatever, however you want to say that. But y'all is the plural of two. Vosotros and vosotras really isn't used anywhere except for in Spain. Some Spanish teachers insist that you use it. I learned my Spanish in Spain, but even so, I'm not going to focus on vosotros in this class, and I'll never put it on a test. You'll see the conjugations of it, but I'm not going to put that on the test. But vosotros is the plural of two. Now we have to have you formal. That is usted. Usted is for people that you've just met and your social superiors. Normally, usted isn't written out as a whole word. It's just abbreviated UD. So you'll see that. If you see UD, that means usted. What's the plural of usted? Ustedes. Ustedes is what most people use for y'all even if it's just a group of friends, because remember, only in Spain they use vosotros. So, ustedes is usually abbreviated UDS. Then we have the third person. El, with an accent on it, is for he, and ella is for she. Now again, that accent, you'll notice, is important. You already know that el without an accent means the. El with an accent means he. So accents are important. El is he, ella is she. And what's the third person plural? Ellos, if it's a group of men or a mixed gender group, and ellas, if it's all women. Those both mean they. Okay, so let's go on to the conjugation of ser. Ser is going to be the first verb that you learn how to conjugate in this class. It means to be. So soy inteligente, you can guess what that means. It means I am intelligent. Now, that might confuse you because you've already learned a pregunta personal, ¿cómo estás? How are you? So estar also means to be. Estoy bien, I am well. So you're thinking to yourself, how come do we have to have two verbs that mean the same thing in Spanish? Well, they're going to be used in different situations. For right now, just remember that ser is for relatively permanent things and estar is for relatively temporary things. If I ask you, ¿cómo estás? And you answer estoy bien, I'm good, well, that's a temporary thing. If I say estoy bien right now and then I walk out into the parking lot to go to lunch and somebody has crashed into my car and didn't even leave a note, I'm not going to be estoy bien anymore. I'm going to be estoy muy mal. So that's why talking about how you feel right now is temporary. But soy inteligente, I'm intelligent. Unless something really drastic happens, I'm always going to be intelligent. That's a relatively permanent thing. So that's the difference between ser and estar in general. You'll learn more about that in detail later, but I just wanted to clarify that in case there were any questions. So let's move on to the conjugation of ser. In English, when we conjugate, we say I plus a form of the verb to be. So I am, we are. We're going to do the same thing in Spanish. Yo soy is I am. Now, you'll see in a minute that soy only goes with yo. So there isn't really any need to say yo soy. It's kind of redundant because the only thing that can go with soy is yo. So often you'll just see people write soy instead of yo soy. Yo soy, I am. Nosotros somos, we are. So we've changed ser to soy for yo and somos for nosotros. Let's go on. Tú eres. Now, you're looking at eres and you're thinking to yourself, okay, soy. At least there's the S from ser in soy. And somos. At least there's the S from ser in somos. Where the heck did eres come from? Just don't worry about it. Ser is an irregular verb in Spanish. Most verbs are going to be conjugated and you'll be able to see a pattern that fits for all different verbs. Ser is just completely irregular in Spanish, so you just got to memorize it. Tú eres, you are. Vosotros sois, y'all are, but remember I'm not going to put that on the test. Usted es, you are. Ustedes son, y'all are. Él es, he is. Ella es, she is. Ellos or ellas son, they are. So you kind of see a pattern. Soy is am. Es is. Son is generally the word for are, unless you're talking about the tú form, tú eres, or the nosotros form, nosotros somos. Okay, so that's how we conjugate ser. What do I want you to do with that? Participation points. Your participation points for this grammar lesson, sometimes you'll have participation points in grammar lessons too, is to write 5 sentences to describe yourself, your friend, and your parent. obviously in Spanish. You're going to make sure to conjugate ser correctly, and you're going to use nouns and adjectives from the chapter to describe yourself, your friend, and your parents. So for example, I might say, yo soy inteligente. So I've taken for the first example there, yo, I've conjugated ser to agree with it, soy, and I've said inteligente. Now, what if I wanted to use a different adjective, one that ends in O, like introvertido? Remember, introvertido means introverted. What if I wanted to say, yo soy introvertido? Can I, as a girl, say, yo soy introvertido? No. Ladies would have to change the O to an A. Yo soy introvertida. So, you're going to do yourself, your amigo, friend, male friend, or amiga, female friend. You're going to do mi amigo y yo. That's my friend and I. My friend and I, that's we, right? So you're going to have to use the nosotros form. Going back a step, mi amigo, that would be a he, right? So you'll have to use the he form. Mi amiga, that would be a she, so you'd have to use the she form. Mi mamá, that's she. Mi papá, that's he. Mi mamá y papá. Mom and dad, that's they, so you'll have to use the they form. So, write, let's see, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sentences. Sorry, I lied to you in the instructions. Write 6 sentences to describe all of those people following those examples and put that in your participation points for this chapter. If you got any questions, post them in the forum.